Medusa, one of the most famous myths from ancient Greek mythology, involving themes of beauty, transformation, punishment, and power. Hello everyone, and welcome to Zeran channel. Today, we will talk about one of the most iconic figures in ancient Greek mythology, a tale that weaves together beauty, betrayal, transformation, and immense power. In a time when gods roamed the earth and mortals walked in their shadow, there lived a young woman named Medusa. Her beauty was the kind that brought gods to their knees and mortals to tears. She was not born a monster, but rather a vision of grace, with long, flowing hair that shimmered like spun gold and eyes that sparkled with the brilliance of 1,000 stars. But her life, like the flickering flame of a candle, would soon be consumed by darkness.
Medusa was one of 3 Gorgon sisters, but unlike her immortal siblings, Stheno and Euryale, she was a mere mortal. The youngest and fairest of the 3, Medusa was also the most fragile, bound by human emotions and vulnerabilities.
Despite this, she chose a path few mortals dared walk. She became a priestess of Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, pledging her life to service and chastity within the goddess's sacred temple.
There, in the marble halls that echoed with whispered prayers and the clinking of sacred offerings, Medusa found solace. She would stand before the towering statue of Athena, her eyes reflecting the golden glow of candles, and offer her devotion. In return, Athena, it seemed, smiled down upon her with favor. For years, Medusa lived in peace, untouched by the world's cruelties, until one fateful day when the gaze of another god fell upon her. The sea god's desire. Poseidon, the god of the seas who ruled the oceans with an iron hand and a heart stirred by desire, had heard whispers of Medusa's beauty. He watched her from afar, his jealousy inflamed by her devotion to Athena, a goddess who had long been his rival.
In Poseidon's eyes, Medusa's beauty was something to be claimed, something to conquer. He appeared to her one evening, rising from the mist of the ocean's waves, his voice a deep, rolling thunder.
"Your beauty, Medusa, shines even in the dim light of the temple," Poseidon whispered, stepping forward, the air around him tinged with the scent of salt and the power of the sea. "No mortal can resist my will."
But Medusa, though mortal, was fiercely loyal to Athena. She refused him, her heart trembling with fear and her mind full of prayers to her goddess. Poseidon's rejection turned to rage. The god, unused to denial, decided to take what he desired by force.
He seized Medusa in Athena's own temple, desecrating the sacred space with violence. The marble floors of the temple trembled under the weight of the sea god's fury, and Medusa's cries echoed through the halls, reaching the ears of no one but the statues of the gods.
When the storm of Poseidon's lust subsided, Medusa lay broken, her body and soul shattered like fragile glass. Her faith in Athena, her goddess, flickered dangerously. She had served faithfully, and yet, in her moment of need, Athena had not intervened.
But Athena had seen everything. She descended from the heavens, her eyes cold and hard as the stone of her statues, her heart a battlefield of divine emotions. As Medusa lay sobbing on the temple floor, the sea still roiling outside from Poseidon's presence, Athena appeared before her. But the goddess's expression was not one of compassion. The air around them stilled, and in that silence, Athena's voice cut through like a blade. "You have desecrated my temple," she said, her voice devoid of mercy. "You have broken your vows of chastity." Medusa lifted her tear-streaked face, her lips trembling. "Goddess, it was not by my choice. Poseidon, he—" But her words faltered under Athena's gaze. The goddess, wounded by the defilement of her sacred space, would not hear of Poseidon's culpability. She was the goddess of reason and strategy, yet her wrath was a force of nature that could not be checked. Medusa, the mortal, would bear the full weight of her vengeance. Without a word, Athena raised her hand, and a force unlike anything Medusa had ever known coursed through her. Her beautiful hair, the crowning glory of her beauty, twisted and writhed in agony as it was transformed into a nest of venomous snakes. Her skin, once soft and pale, hardened into a cold, scaly surface, and her eyes, which once gleamed with warmth, now burned with accursed fire. Medusa screamed as her transformation took hold, but Athena's punishment was not yet complete.
From this day forward, Athena declared, her voice echoing across the temple, "You shall be a creature so hideous that any who look upon you will turn to stone." Medusa's cries were swallowed by the sound of the temple's walls shaking, as if the gods themselves wept for her. In a flash, she was cast out from the temple, exiled to a remote island where no mortal dared venture.
For years, Medusa wandered her forsaken island, alone, cursed and feared. She no longer dared to look at her reflection, for the sight of herself was a constant reminder of the monster she had become. The snakes that now adorned her head hissed and coiled with her every movement, and her touch had become as deadly as her gaze. Her heart grew cold, hardened like the countless statues that littered the island, foolish mortals who had ventured too close, seeking to claim her head as a trophy, only to be turned to stone by a single glance. Medusa, once the envy of gods and mortals alike, was now nothing more than a weapon, a tool of terror.
And yet, beneath the monstrous exterior, the pain of betrayal still smoldered in her soul. She had been the victim of a god's cruelty and a goddess's wrath, punished for a crime she did not commit. Her heart beat with a deep, unspoken desire for revenge, not on mortals, but on the gods themselves. Now let's explore what happened after Medusa's transformation into a monster, and how her fate intertwined with that of a young hero.
The arrival of Perseus. One fateful night, the winds carried a new presence to her island, a figure cloaked in shadows and whispers. Perseus, the son of Zeus, had been sent on an impossible quest by King Polydectes to retrieve the head of Medusa. Perseus knew the dangers that awaited him, but the gods had not abandoned him. Athena herself, the very goddess who had cursed Medusa, had given Perseus a polished shield, its surface as reflective as a mirror. With it, he could see Medusa without falling victim to her deadly gaze. Perseus also carried with him Hermes' winged sandals, a sword from Hephaestus, and the helm of darkness, a gift from Hades, which made him invisible to all. Silent as a shadow, he entered the lair of Medusa, careful to avoid the statues that had once been men. Medusa, sensing the disturbance, stirred from her restless sleep. The snakes in her hair hissed, coiling tighter as she rose from the stone slab where she rested. She could feel the presence of an intruder, but Perseus remained hidden in the shadows. "Who dares come here?" Medusa's voice echoed through the cavern. It was no longer soft or melodic, but hoarse and filled with venom. Another fool seeking death? Perseus did not respond. He gripped his sword tightly, watching her reflection in his shield. Closer and closer he crept, every step calculated. Medusa's snakes writhed and she whirled, her gaze searching, but Perseus was too quick, too skilled. Finally, with one swift motion, he brought the sword down. Medusa's head fell from her shoulders, and as her blood spilled onto the earth, something remarkable happened. From her neck sprang the magnificent Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chryser, a golden warrior. Medusa's children, fathered by Poseidon, now free at last.
Perseus claimed Medusa's head, but even in death, her power remained. Her severed head, still capable of turning men to stone, would become one of the most powerful weapons in his arsenal. Eventually, he presented it to Athena, who mounted it on her shield, the Aegis, as a symbol of protection and divine justice.
But the story of Medusa did not end with her death. Far from just a symbol of terror, Medusa's tale carries a powerful message about the cycle of violence and victimhood. Once a beautiful, innocent woman, Medusa became a victim of divine assault, a woman violated by a god and punished unjustly by a goddess. Her transformation into a monster reflects how society often turns victims into criminals, blaming them for the very violence inflicted upon them. In many ways, Medusa's story echoes through the ages. We see countless Medusas today, women who, after suffering abuse and injustice, are further shamed, cast out, and demonized. Their pain, like Medusa's, becomes misunderstood and feared, while their humanity is erased. Her story is a timeless reminder of how the victimized are often turned into outcasts and how the cruelty of power can transform lives.
Medusa, once a victim, became a tragic symbol of rage and resilience. Her name a lasting testament to the injustice faced by so many who have suffered in silence. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more legendary tales.